Well, it's very nice to see all of you. This is Rudy Giuliani. This is the Rudy Giuliani Show on LindellTV. And I had my start all set. I was working on it since this afternoon, on and off. And of course, something happened at the last minute that got me a little concerned. But it's going to be a lot more measured than when I first saw it. So for 20 hours or so now, the crooked, communist, red, anti-American, anti-Israel, anti-decency, anti-humanity, anti-Western civilization press has been emphasizing the fact that when the Israelis attacked Gaza, the place from which their women and children were raped, murdered, ripped apart brutally, the place that's been attacking them, well, for 40 years, have killed more Israelis, bombed buildings, shot shrapnel into young girls' faces, killed many, many, many Americans, many, many, many Americans. Yours truly indicted the most famous one of all for killing Americans. And a president spent a great deal of time making good friends with him and selling out Israel and the United States. Well, Israel, in the course of trying to clean up Gaza here at the last minute with the time pressure putting on them, so that they're, to the extent they can, when this is all over, there aren't right next to them, like, Central Park next to the west side of Manhattan, there isn't a group of people that are dedicated from the day they're born or the day they can read to killing Jews. I mean, that'd be a really dangerous situation. It would be like putting whatever remained of the Nazi army that fled off to Brazil or Argentina or wherever the hell they went, sticking them there. In the course of that, apparently they accidentally, because it is accidental, there'd be no reason in the world the Israeli army would want to hit a church. First of all, they're too humane and too decent. Smoke that. Go ahead. But number two, they're too smart. It would be used against him, as it is being used against him. The Pope falls right into it, condemning it. I don't mind if the Pope condemns it. You shouldn't even have the accident. So the Israelis were wrong, bad. Be more careful next time. But don't stop defending yourself, because by doing that, you're defending us, because I'm one of the people that notices, although lots of Democrats seem to forget it, that after they say death to Israel, they say death to America, and I'm an American. So thank you for helping me. Now, here's the hypocrisy writ large. One of the reasons that Israel had to intervene, and we made this point quite some time ago when President Trump, we made the point when Al-Qaeda took over, that he had been a terrorist, that he had allegedly reformed, he pretended not to be a terrorist, that either with his connivance or not, there's going to be a real problem in the Alawite section, which is fairly close to it is right on the Israeli border. The Alawites are the group, the tribe that supported Assad. So since they took over, since the new government has taken over, it's not just him, his whole group, which was previously a terrorist group, on our terrorist list, taken off the terrorist list just recently because the president is trying to make peace nice with him. But because we don't know yet if we can make peace nice with him, because he may be a rabid killer. They have unabatedly, since the time they started this revolution, as the Israelis got rid of Assad for them, which they couldn't do in 10 years. So please don't think they got rid of Assad, the people running Syria. The Israelis did. As the Israelis got rid of Assad, chased Russia out, the new government, also previously a terrorist group, was wiping out as many Alawites as it could so that there'd be no even connection to Assad. Now, it happens to be in that area of Syria, it is jointly occupied by the Alawites, the Druze, and the Christians, both Catholic, Orthodox, and Protestant. Maybe largely Catholic in that particular area, maybe. It's an ancient sect of the Eastern Rite of the Roman Catholic Church, probably converted by St. Paul. And there have been reports, so just a month ago, we gave 1,000 of those Christians that were wiped out by these very terrorists that the Israeli army went to try to stop. A short while ago, the head of the Alawites came to Bibi Netanyahu and asked him for help. Now, why did he come to Netanyahu and ask for help? Because they have fellow countrymen. The picture of Israel that you have is painted by the communists, the anti-American, the Jew haters, the people who want to see one world, the people that want to feast off Middle Eastern oil. They're all a bunch of very, very bad people that have created a complete. There used to be a moral equivalent. There's no longer a moral equivalent between Israel and the Palestinian Authority. The Palestinians are the poor little oppressors that just happen to engage in vicious world terrorizing terror. And the Israelis are the oppressors. They're the bad guys. So the Israelis hit a church, Israelis get condemned. Meanwhile, the Syrian government either permits or participates in the slaughter of 1,000 Christians over the last 4 months. And not a peep out of the pontiff of the Roman Catholic Church. Not even like, peep, peep. Now, Mr. Pope, you're not one of those slimy Italian diplomats or one of those slimy European diplomats that apparently get slimy even when they act as secretaries of state for the church. They become like other secretaries of state, like they give away the church in China. I mean, whatever somebody did in China, I don't get to pronounce this, but I can get to observe it as a student of Christian history. They gave away the Catholic Church. You did what the martyrs of the church refused to do. They refused to submit to the Roman Empire until the Roman Empire made them legal. You submitted to the Chinese communist dictatorship that Our Lady of Fatima warned you against. And you allowed China to have a big role in picking your bishops and archbishops and cardinals. I don't know. I don't remember President Reagan doing that when I was in. I don't remember him picking cardinals. Gee, must have missed that one. But you say nothing about the 1,000 that were being wiped out by the Muslims. And now when the Israelis, to come to the aid of dissident Muslims, which is what they are, or I shouldn't say dissident, they think differently about them. The people are always confused about Druze and Alawites and Bedouin. The antagonistic tribe there that's doing the dirty work for Syria are the Bedouins. Now, the Bedouins are almost unidentifiable. They're where you put everybody else that's Arab that doesn't have a home. They've been traveling around for about 3,000 years, still looking for a place to live. The Bedouins live on a camel, and they go all around the place. And they were, believe it or not, Muhammad's critical convert. Probably wouldn't be a Muslim religion if he had failed everywhere else but with the Bedouins. And when he convinced the Bedouins turned out to be the best army, and he was able to conquer the Saudi Arabian desert peninsula, whatever. So the Bedouins have been killing off Alawites. That was the main story they were telling to clean it up of Assad people. But at the same time, every time they could, they killed Druze. And every time they could, they killed Christians. And the question was this like 3 different genocides or a genocide and 2 semi-genocides? Well, when the Alawites had enough of it, they came to their protector Israel because, when the Druze had enough of it, they came to their protector Israel because there are a substantial number of Druze that are citizens of Israel where they do not have to give up their religion, where they don't have to pay the Mohammed tariff for not being, in their case, loyal enough Muslims, and they don't get killed. In fact, they're treasured. In Haifa, one of the most beautiful sites is the Druze temple, which it's just beautiful. I don't know how to describe it to you. We'll see if we can pick off a picture of it on the internet and show it to you. But when you go to Haifa, that is a place you go to see. And you also find out about Haifa, somewhat changed now, that Haifa has always been the community in Israel that had the best relationship with the Arabs, where the Arabs are on the town council. I believe they've had Arab mayors. The Druze are represented in parliament, in the Knesset. I don't know if they're part of his ruling party. They have been at times part of the prime minister's ruling party. And there are other Arabs that are part of the Knesset that are somewhat more anti-Israel. But the Druze are a peaceful group of people. I don't know, maybe like Falun Gong. They're much older, but maybe like Falun Gong in China. You know, they're really just peaceful people. They don't understand all of this killing and all of this, and they're not particularly adroit or useful at defending themselves. They're rich, but they're not big enough to do it. And because they are of great value to Israel as Arabs that are willing to live within the democratic structure and legal structure of Israel, in essence, the Jewish army protects them as Israeli citizens. So Israel went in, and I don't know that Israel had to ask the United States for this permission. This is an agreement they have. I gotta suspect when I went there and spent a day at that community, I didn't, I'm sorry, go into the actual history. I'm sorry, wrong. They did tell me the history of how the temple ended up there, and it's a great story. I don't remember exactly what, but it was that they were saved by Jewish settlers, and they developed a very close relationship. So Israel got in a little trouble for that, right? For saving innocent lives. But in the course of saving it, they saved a lot of Christians. And in the course of dealing with the Gaza, they made a mistake and they hit a church. And this gives the Pope sort of the idea to push this idea of genocide. There's no genocide on the Palestinian people. Israel's not trying to wipe out the Palestinian people. Israel is trying to work out ways that the Palestinian people can be safe. Israel, if you're talking about a genocide, and it isn't any more a genocide than defeating Nazism. They are trying to wipe out the terrorist group known as Hamas. Well, that sure as hell is not genocide. That's self-defense. So I am extremely upset that they focus on this and then don't tell the whole history. Yeah, this is not correct. Father Federico Palma says, make no mistake, this was an attack against the Christian name of the Christian religion itself. It was a premeditated attack. Now, how does he know that? Was he hear the confession of the Israeli soldiers? Come on, Father, how do you know it's a premeditated attack? They were bombing in the neighborhood for a week. They were aiming at the cross and missed it. I tell you what, given the performance of the IDF, I think if they were aiming at a cross, they would hit it. Cardinal Pizzaballa, who would have been maybe a pope, has confirmed that at least 3 people have now died after Israel attacked on Holy Family Catholic Church. 9 are wounded. In comparison to the 1,000 that have been killed in the last 2 months by the Syrian Arabs in their attempt to wipe out the Alawites, the Druze, and the Christians. In Syria, it's done on purpose. Here, they're not thinking about Christians in Gaza. I'm sorry. Okay, now that we have that straightened out to some degree, and next time I go to church, they won't let me in. But in any event, the Catholic Church has become, in several ways, extremely problematic in this whole issue of picking between Israel and the Palestinians. It's picked evil over good, which shows you that the Pope, except when he's acting in a matter of faith and morals, is not infallible. In fact, he can make some really big errors. So you look at what Israel did, and you say Israel did what it had to do, and hopefully it stopped the Syrians from continuing to. They surely were attempting a genocide of the Alawite people. It is possible that the Druze and the Christians were collateral, but not really, because in the past there have been attempts to wipe out that Christian community. It's very much smaller than it used to be, and there have been many attempts to wipe out the Druze. So. Just gets you back to Muhammad, right? What he preached. They're going after all the people that Muhammad said to go after. They're going after the Jews who won't convert. They're going after the Christians who won't convert. They're going after fellow Arabs who do not agree with their version of the religion, and they therefore do not consider them part of. They consider them as much infidels as the Christians and the Jews. So this is the whole nice panoply of the enemies laid out in the Quran nicely by Muhammad, that you get a real special, you become a defender of the faith if you kill them, and you get a special place in paradise. So they did their thing, and unfortunately, the Israelis don't take that special place in paradise too seriously, and wipe the shit out of them. The president would like us to stop talking about the Epstein case. I would really like to stop talking about the Epstein case. And over the period of the time that it's taken place, and Ted probably could quantify this for us, we've spent time on the Epstein case, and we haven't spent time on the Epstein case. What I mean by that is, and of course, you have to be the judge of this, but I think we've dealt with it very proportionately. It's never been a big cause of mine. The treatment of the January 6 martyrs was a bigger thing for me. The 2020 stolen election was much bigger for me. The lawfare, not only my personal involvement in it, which still continues, but the lawfare as practiced, particularly against the president, was probably my biggest issue. I think I was involved in the Epstein issue actually at first when they used to talk to me before, the main media threw me out because I was dealing with heresy, that the election of 2020 may not have been on the up and up, and then of course for a while I was a Russian agent because they all believed the 51 spies who lied and not Trump were me. But I was called upon to answer questions about Epstein because I know that prison. I guess as well as maybe 5-6 people, except maybe for the wardens. I mean, I was the first one to use it. I was their original client. It was built when I became U.S. attorney. I used it probably more extensively than any U.S. attorney. And I used it for some of the most dangerous people in the world. And I had a pretty good idea of what you can do in there, and of course you can do anything in there, But what is easy to do in there and what is hard? It is hard to do a suicide in there.
Thank you for being with us today. Sure. Jackie.
Thank you, Caroline. There's been a lot of discussion about the Epstein files and the president's comments yesterday calling it a hoax. Can you clarify which part of the Epstein hoax is the hoax part?
The president is referring to the fact that Democrats have now seized on this as if they ever wanted transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein, which is an asinine suggestion for any Democrat to make. The Democrats had control of this building, the White House, for 4 years, and they didn't do a dang thing when it came to transparency in regards to Jeffrey Epstein and his heinous crimes. It was this president who directed the Department of Justice and the Attorney General to do an exhaustive review of all files related to Jeffrey Epstein, which they did. The Attorney General and the FBI, led by Pam Bondi, Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, these are great patriots, some of the most trusted voices in the Republican Party movement. It's part of the reason the president appointed them to these high law enforcement positions, and they spent many months going through all of the files related to Jeffrey Epstein, and they concluded what they found in that memo, which they drafted and they released. And so the president has been transparent. He has followed through on his promises to the American people, but he doesn't like to see Democrats and the mainstream media covering this like it's the biggest story that the American people care about. The president has been working so hard this week. On Tuesday, he went to Pennsylvania.
Well, I mean, she's doing the best she can to explain it, and we're going to start off with the fact now, this is where you have to be honest about things, where the CNN is, and they never say this to you when they tell you that, Trump was a Russian spy or Trump was a whatever they buy of the bullshit, right? I am a partisan here. Dan Bongino and Kash Patel and Pam Bondi are friends of mine, and beyond friends of mine, I have friends maybe I wouldn't say this about. I hope I could say it about every friend, but about them a little more than others, of unparalleled integrity and great motivation. And I do believe, as I think through all the possibilities of the Epstein case, and believe me, I think through all of them. I mean, I prosecuted enough that it can be hard to fool me with something. There's none that I see they would compromise themselves. Oh, I guess. I put myself in their position, right? And I say, suppose I wasn't going to put out all the facts of the case. Why wouldn't I do that? Honestly. Well, I wouldn't do it if it hurt innocent people. So there's a portion of this that could hurt innocent people. And again, I'm speculating. I don't have the facts. There may be people have the fact. There has to be a way to put out the explanation without putting out the innocent people. You don't have to put out people to start with. I know the press and the public are interested in the people. And I'm interested in the people but am I going to know if they're guilty or not? If I'm not going to know they're guilty or not, I'm not sure I am interested in the people. But I'm sure I could explain what happened without mentioning the people. 35 people were taken to the island, and we have proof that on 35 occasions X and Y and Z happened. We're not able to prove we're not able to prove that these people necessarily participated. Which are the ones that participated in what went on there? And beyond that, well, I guess if it's children, not, but probably some of the statute of limitations has run out. I think there's a deeper issue that the government has to address itself to that goes beyond prurient interest. And that is, was there, as is rumored, national security involvement in this, either on the part of our government or the government of one of our allies or possibly enemies? I don't know. That goes back to the case in 2009 when he got a very, very light sentence for then proof that he abused boys, and was treated very nicely. And the rumor was almost corroborated that there was a government and this was during the latter part of the Bush administration, but mostly, and into the Clinton administration, I believe, into the Obama administration, I believe. This had nothing to do with Trump. Trump wasn't, maybe he was dreaming of being president, but he wasn't president. And that, of course, was quite controversial. And there was a lot of anger that he got such a light sentence, and it was attributed to his high government connections, including, in particular, his friendship with Bill Clinton. But he served that sentence, and but then the investigation picked up again and got very heated, and it developed a lot more beyond that. And that's what we're dealing with now. But never with a trial after that in which the evidence came out. What we have is what's so dangerous, and I warn you about. We have evidence by leak. Not even evidence by leak where we have, if we have evidence by leak and we have a piece of paper that has the person's signature on it and they signed it and they explain they committed a crime, well, we still can't convict them beyond reasonable doubt, but we can be a little more certain, or pretty certain we got a criminal there. But I don't know that we have that, right? We've got some tantalizing circumstantial evidence in that you could separate out the people that went to the island and didn't go to the island, only, at least briefly. The ones who didn't go to the island, you'd be willing to put in a category of investigating at the end, because you would think he would organize himself so that the people that were part of his deep, dark, perverted secret that he, I don't know how much of a secret it was, he was a pimp, but that he pimped out little children. You would think that was a more closely held secret. And that secret probably would have been shared with the people you could show went to that island. And probably, unless there's other proof, before you start to get really suspicious, you probably have to show they went there more than a few times. I know you're going to say, well, just put all the names out. But I'm sorry, I still consider myself a lawyer. The liberals have thrown me out, but it's unfair to do that. I can tell you this, knowing nothing about the case. There are people that were involved with this guy and have the foggiest idea he was a stinking, rotten, horrible pervert. There were guys who were involved with this guy who knew he was a crook but didn't think he was a secret pervert. I bet a lot of Democrats, in the way he raised money and tossed money around, which was tremendous, knew he was a crook and a slime, a piece of crap, but they didn't know it went that far. And then there were a group of people that probably did. There's no doubt he didn't have that island just for him and Giselle. And we have the victims who can testify. And apparently we have tapes, a lot of them, of girls, underage girls having sex. At least I think I heard Pam Bondi say that. So what has to be done here? It has to be investigated. And it has to be prosecuted if it can. And if it can't, there should be a report to the public that's done within the rules. You'll get heat for that. Because you're going to have to put out you're going to have to, if I'm right and you're not going to be able to prove anything in court, you're going to have to put out what we call a redacted report. They're going to say you're putting it out because you cover it up for people. It's impossible to put out this report without redacting it, because there will be, I'm telling you, there will be innocent people who hung around with this jackass for good reasons, or possibly for other but not so serious, nefarious reasons. And then there were his group of pervert pals. I don't know who they are. I know it's not the president, because I've told you the story with the president any number of times, and it was partially, if though somewhat inaccurately, repeated in the paper near the bottom today. But I can't tell you who it is. I can't, like with the Prince Andrew, I see the evidence, but I see the denials, and That, again, as we say, that's what a trial is for. There may be some that don't even get to the point of even being able to say that we can have a trial. It's just a name and suspicious evidence. I do think it is possible to answer the following question. Based on what you have now, did Bill Clinton go on the Pervert Express? It has been alleged in leaks from the Justice Department, Biden days, that Clinton went on 27 trips on Pervert Express. But Trump has gone on none on Pervert Express. He took it once, twice to New York to return to New York, but that isn't when it was used for the purpose of going to Pervert Island. It's the group he's taking to Pervert Island that you'd want to examine very, very carefully, because either they were participating or they may have seen something, because there were a lot of young girls hanging around there. So you'd want to put the list together and go interview them. Why not? It should be done. It's eventually going to be done. I don't like special prosecutors any more than anybody else does. But given, for reasons I can't figure out, the reluctance for doing this, for the good of the country, for the good of our national security, and for the good of the president, who I love, we should do this. He shouldn't be taking this needless burden on. There's got to be a way of giving out more information about this and not jeopardizing anything ethical or serious. So I can't tell you exactly what that is because I don't know the facts. I don't know the hurdles you have to go over. But I do know it can be done. I've done it in situations and seen it done in situations that are just as, and maybe even much more complicated than this. So we'll be back right after this break.
Whether it's being a weekend warrior or spending time with your family, feeling your best is the key to doing the things you love. That's why I'm excited to tell you about Nirvanta. It's a natural solution designed to help you stay active and live well naturally. Nirvanta is a topical blend of all natural essential oils like frankincense, myrrh, and a proprietary gold standard plant stock extract. It's perfect for your hands, feet, knees, back, or anywhere else that needs a little extra care. Use Nirvanta proactively as part of your daily maintenance routine, and you're guaranteed you're going to feel the difference. Simply massage Nirvanta in for at least 60 seconds, 2 to 3 times a day to get the best results. And if you're not completely satisfied, you get your money back. No questions asked. There's simply no risk and no reason not to try Nirvanta today. Right now, you get 15% off with code Lindell exclusively at NirvantaHealth.com. So stop reaching out for that medicine cabinet. Get Nirvanta instead and experience the difference. Go to NirvantaHealth.com. Use code Lindell to get 15% off today. Nirvanta Health. Live well naturally.
Friends, we all know the truth. Big Pharma and the federal bureaucracy have made a mess of healthcare in this country, and boy, that's an understatement. President Trump signed an executive order to bring prices down, and that's a great step. But we know that real change takes time. There's one pharmacy that is already stepping up. I want to tell you about All Family Pharmacy. They're not waiting. They're taking action now with a summer sale that gives you the power to take control of your health. Right now, through the end of June, you get 20% off site-wide, no insurance required. Did you hear that? 20% off site-wide, no insurance required. They work with licensed doctors in all 50 states, and they ship fast straight to your door. Whether it's ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, methylene blue, antibiotics, emergency kits, or your daily prescriptions, this is a time to stock up. If you believe in medical freedom, if you're tired of waiting for someone else to fix things, do what I do. Take action. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Lindell and use promo code LindellTV, LINDELL 20 for 20% off your entire order. That's allfamilypharmacy.com Lindell. Promo code LindellTV. Let's protect our families, defend our freedom, and make America healthy again together.
With everybody talking about making America healthy again, I thought today'd be a great day to talk to all my fellow patriots about the importance of making your homes healthy again. Well, we have proudly partnered with airwaterhealing.com and their revolutionary whole home air purification system. The V3 from Air Water Healing does 3,000 square feet of purification. It eliminates dust, mold, viruses, and odors. But here's the part I love. They require no filters to ever be changed and virtually no maintenance. Whether you suffer from asthma, allergies, seasonal bronchitis, or just want to protect your family from the flu or even greater threats, don't wait to get your V3 from airwaterhealing.com today. Use code Lindell for 20% off in savings and free shipping. That's promo code Lindell at airwaterhealing.com. The last time President Trump was in office, gold soared 50% and silver went up a huge 53%. Americans who invested in silver and gold during Donald Trump's first presidency are very happy that they did it. And right now, gold continues to soar to the highest numbers in history. These gains are just an appetizer for what's to come. Some market analysis are saying that gold is predicted to rise another 30% in the next year alone. So now's the time to invest in gold and silver, and that's why I partnered with Fisher Liberty Gold. Fisher Liberty Gold is a conservative-owned and operated precious metals investment company. They even helped my good friend President Trump get elected through their contributions to Turning Point USA and other conservative groups. I have dedicated my life to ensuring that people get the best sleep ever. And in addition to owning a MyPillow, I can now sleep well at night knowing that you can all protect your savings with precious metals with Fisher Liberty Gold. With Fisher Liberty Gold, you can sleep well knowing that your retirement is secure. And if you call now, you're going to receive your very own presidential gold guide and qualify for up to $20,000 in free silver. But wait, there's more. Call now or text metals to 26786 to receive your presidential gold guide from Fisher Liberty. And for a limited time, I will send you a free MyPillow for qualified accounts. This presidential gold guide from Fisher Liberty will tell you exactly why you need to own gold even while Donald Trump is president. And just by calling in, you get a free MyPillow for a limited time for qualified accounts, and up to $20,000 in free silver. So don't wait. Call 1-888-4GOLD-19 or text metals to 26786 today. That's 1-888-4GOLD-19 or text metals to 26786 today to receive your free MyPillow and up to $20,000 in free silver.
Revelation 13, verse 16 through 17 says, "It also forced all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hands or on their foreheads, so that they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of its name." What happens when the government can freeze your bank account without even charging you with a crime?
President Trump wrote an executive order on January 23rd, and specifically on exactly what the Genius Act is about, except they did not include what was in his executive order, which is a ban on a central bank digital currency.
The Genius Act creates a government-regulated digital dollar called a stablecoin that many argue is a central bank digital currency in disguise. Stablecoins would likely replace all physical cash. And under the Genius Act, your digital wallet could be frozen if you violate any federal or state regulation, even if it was never passed by Congress. Remember the COVID vaccine mandates? The Biden administration enforced them not through Congress, but through an executive order. Millions were fired. Now imagine being locked out of your savings for refusing a future mandate. Over in Australia, people were physically detained in quarantine camps. In America, the soft power version would be freezing your finances and calling it public safety. The White House maintains that the Genius Act will not usher in a CBDC.
This piece of legislation is going to make America the crypto capital of the world, and that's what the president promised. As for a central bank digital currency, the president opposes that. He made that promise to the American people on the campaign.
I'm also making another promise to protect Americans from government tyranny. As your president, I will never allow the creation of a central bank digital currency.
Even though President Trump signed an executive order back in January banning CBDCs, the Genius Act lets big banks create private sector versions, still programmable and still controlled.
And if you look at what they're doing with the Genius Act and stablecoin, he said no CBDCs. The guys who own the New York Fed are all going to create subsidiaries and issue stablecoin, which will be interoperable and can work with a social credit system.
Stablecoins can be programmed exactly like how we fear CBDCs will be programmed. They're exactly the same tokenized mechanism. They can be used in smart contracts. They can be used to collateralize loans or mortgages. They can be backed by certain things. They can be taken out of your wallet. Your wallet can be blacklisted.
Back in 2016, he even raised concern about the lack of the gold standard, which our country had before the Federal Reserve's creation.
Can you envision a scenario that this country ever goes back to the gold standard?
Well, in some ways, I like the gold standard. There's something very nice about the gold standard, and you have to go back at the right time, like when gold does the old crash show. But there's something very nice about having something solid. You know, we used to have a very, very solid country because it was based on a gold standard.
But now Trump changed his tune when it comes to this bill, saying, get it to my desk ASAP. No delays, no add-ons. The Genius Act stablecoin is just one piece of a much larger digital control grid. AI-run data centers, facial recognition tied to Real ID, constant location tracking, and behavioral scoring, just like Communist China's social credit system. According to Neil Kashkari, president of the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis, a CBDC would let the government monitor every one of your transactions. I get why China would be interested. Why would the American people be for that? Well, the government would gain the unconstitutional power to seize your assets without trial, without due process. That's a direct violation of the Fourth Amendment, which protects against warrantless surveillance. It's not just about the money here. It's about the control. The Genius Act isn't genius. It's actually dangerous. Could this be the very thing that leads to the mark of the beast? Reporting for LindellTV, I'm Allison Steinberg.
Excellent report, Allison. Very concisely put. The danger of it very, very nicely described and not overstated, but quite in line with what it is. And I must say, I have to admit that a lot of this I don't completely get, and I've been trying. And I have a rule. I had this rule for myself, and I had this rule for my clients before the Biden and the lawfare and the miserable, horribly, evilly motivated Democrats threw me out of the practice of law for no reason other than defending Donald Trump, honestly. I don't invest in something I don't understand, and I don't recommend that my clients do it unless I can understand it for them or we can find a lawyer who can understand it for them. And I do that because I investigated before I became a private lawyer so many schemes that people invested in and they never understood it. But everybody else was doing it and everybody else was telling them how much money they could make. And they would say, well, we're not as smart as Jack down the block. And Jack made a fortune, so we'll make a fortune. Well, Jack may not have understood it either, or Jack may have been a crook. It means you might have to forego some investments that turn out to be great ones, and you say to yourself, well, why did I do that? But I assure you, if you follow that rule, and ultimately there's no investment scheme that if the right person explains it to you, you won't understand it. You won't understand the basis of the equity in it, or in this particular case, and I think what Allison is pointing out very nicely is, where's the backup protection of this? So if everybody burned all the paper money, you had the gold, right? And now you have a certain degree of insurance so that they'll print more money for something. But could somebody, these are accounts that exist in the netherworld, right? Now, if people can hack, why can't they go to Giuliani's account for $10,000 and make it Morris's account for $10,000? Now, I don't know if they can. I don't know if they can't. Well, I know they can, but I don't know of the foolproof solution that they can. I assume there is one. I guess there's never like a foolproof solution. People can rob a bank. Insurance has to have some limit on it. They can't insure 50 billion or whatever. Maybe it really can. But what are the protections? I believe they're there. People have, in general, told me there are protections. And I know some very, very successful investors in this area. But so far, none of them have explained it to me to my satisfaction. So therefore, for me personally, I would not invest in this, and I wouldn't recommend anybody else doing it. I would recommend anybody else doing it who studies it and who understands it, with the admission that I may not be able to get it yet, but I'm going to try. And I thought Allison pointed out that an awful lot of people would be victimized by this, because I think still the majority of people don't understand it. Here's what I do understand. If I owe money to the government, they shouldn't be able to go to my bank account and get it from me. They should bring a proceeding against me and get it in court. And I think she's absolutely right. We're violating the Constitution if we do that. And then the court date will take place, 10 years from now, and the money will be worth nothing by the time I get it back, because they probably won't pay interest on it. So this is a very dangerous thing. And this is what they do or try to do in communist countries. We're getting to look more and more like one, aren't we? I told you 2 years ago we had I think it was, I'll get the exact date, could have been 3. Remember exactly where I filmed the podcast too. I was going to do that. We just about pulled into the socialist station, and I nixed it, and I said, we've pulled into we're Marxists now as a country. Now we're becoming one of the more Marxist countries. We used to be marginally Marxist. We're now fully Marxist. And you want one test? When a lot of people are paying half of what they own to the government owns the economy. The government is the senior partner in this, what used to be private economy, which marked it from being a Nazi or communist economy. Now, right at the border of New York and Pennsylvania is the answer to the 30 years of growing poverty in the southern belt of New York. At different times in my life, I've spent a lot of time there, and I have a great deal of affection for it. I was a law clerk to a federal judge who sat in the Southern District of New York, which is Manhattan and the suburbs. But he came from around Elmira, New York, and he frequently went there to sit and help them out with cases. And he would bring his happy little friendly law clerks with him. And we would spend a month of hearing cases in a country environment, which was really good for our legal education. We also got to know Auburn, New York, Elmira, New York, Horseheads, New York, which is where the judge came from. We up to Buffalo, up to Syracuse. The president went to a conference at Pittsburgh 2 days ago. And what they talked about was making Pittsburgh and to some extent Pennsylvania, the home of AI and the home of energy. Now, the home of AI, because we don't have AI without energy. And I don't know if it's twice the amount of energy we have now or 3 times the amount of energy we have now, but it's a lot of energy that we don't have right now. And whoever comes up with that energy first is going to win the war of AI. Person who wins the war of AI, no exaggeration, will control the world. And you can see that Trump has us in high gear. He's been doing AI deals from the first one with the chips coming over from from Taiwan. So here's my pitch as a former New Yorker where my heart still lies. For 30 years as a New Yorker, both a prosecutor, a private citizen, and a public official, but of a part of the state that didn't get affected by it as much. But from the part of the state that increasingly supported New York. I mean, as upper New York suffered from poverty and an inability to make the change from the Rust Belt with the success of a Pennsylvania or even here in New Hampshire, I knew there was an answer to it that would make these people wealthy. And it was right under the ground, and it was called oil and gas. And I got to know that in great depth when I went into law practice, because for 10 years I was in a oil and gas practice that was centered in Houston, Texas. And I spent a great deal of my time in the Middle East and in Kazakhstan and in places where we got our gas. But I understood fracking. I defended it because Texas invented fracking. Fracking is the greatest thing that happened to America with regard to energy. When we thought we were out of oil, when we thought we were out of gas or getting there, we realized that if you dig down deep into the earth, really deep, like our bunker buster bombs go, all of a sudden you find a whole stored amount, who knows how long stored, a couple of thousand years of oil. And if you have the hydraulic capacity to bring it up, it's perfectly fine. And Texas was living off it for a long time until North Dakota, South Dakota, and Pennsylvania figured out that they have shales and areas as big or bigger than Texas. The Marcellus Shale starts up around Syracuse, New York. It makes a V right through New York, goes right over the Pennsylvania border, covers a good deal of central Pennsylvania, and heads all the way down to West Virginia. And I don't know. I've been at the top. Been at the top where the original water comes out. And I drank it. You know why I drank it? Because the crazy liberals say that it pollutes. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It doesn't do anything to the water. Not a damn thing. We've been doing it for 50 years. Yeah, there have been spills. You clean them. To spill out enough to ruin all the water, well, there might not be enough shale to spill out, or oil, or gas, because it dilutes in massive amounts of liquid. And now this idea that it leaks out has been taken down to a very, very basic minimum. It is extraordinarily safe. Every form of energy except nuclear is dangerous. Nuclear has the best record. I mean, you know the two. One was Chernobyl. That cost lives because it was in the hands of the incompetent Russians. And the other was 3 Mile Island, which is in the state that does most fracking, Pennsylvania, who lost no one. In America, aside from industrial accidents, we've lost no one to nuclear power. And we don't even have necessarily the safest nuclear reactors. The French small reactors are much safer. So the part of the president's reason for being there, even there, he was there with some Democrats like Fetterman and Shapiro. The Democrats in Pennsylvania embraced fracking about 10 to 15 years ago. Originally on a case of self-interest, they realized, like the stupid, ideologically handcuffed, silly, want-to-be accepted, cowardly New Yorkers. They accepted this is really good for our people. And now a lot of their people are rich. And the state is doing tremendously. And it's the reason why the president can say things and people don't gasp. Oh, we may have the most oil in the world. I should let you know that with the Marcellus Shale that comes down through Syracuse, through Pennsylvania, a couple of years ago, they discovered that below it, further down, there's another one. There's another big deposit of oil. There's another big deposit of gas. And with proper technology, we'll be able to reach it. And the proper technology has now arrived. So we got a twofer there. And we have Hochul, Pochul, stupid dummy, and Cuomo, the sellout, who not only have provided the criminals on the street that beat the shit out of us and the cop killers that have been let out, all 42, but they keep us from being a prosperous state. And then with Hamdani coming, Hamdani, we're going to get traded to Russia, New York is. So on that note, which we will follow up on tomorrow, what's the chance of New York going in a 2 or 3-way trade to Russia as being more communist than not? We'll discuss that tomorrow. But you go over now to X, and we've got lots of other things to discuss at 8 o'clock, coming up very shortly, and then 7 o'clock tomorrow, we'll be back here. God bless America.